right, it is 6:33 on June, what's today? August 21. And I'm going to call the meeting of the DRB in order. So let me read the opening remarks. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means that we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties and then issue a written decisions with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to the application. Application materials and written testimony is posted to the town website as received. Hearings may be continued at the board's discretion if materially important documents are received after the submission deadline. In the event our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the finding and decisions of this board. Only interested parties that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board. So I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we are on the record, we're going to ask you to affirm that your testimony will be truthful so that the applicants and anyone wishing to speak to an application, please affirm the following. You can stand. If you're going to speak. Okay. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in this cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Just say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That is 4 votes out of 7. If we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we will consider a request to continue our application to the next public meeting. So that's saying we don't have a full board. We do have a quorum, however. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for approval. It should be noted that the TOB is the town is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before the board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, and other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. Okay. So, has the meeting been properly warned?
Yes.
Yes, good. And as we have,
Alternate.
alternate, I would like to, we have 4 board members and Keith is an alternate, and I would like to appoint Keith to the board for this evening. Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any ex parte communication or any reason that anyone wants to recuse themselves? No? Okay, here we go. So the first case is minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes of June 17th?
So moved.
July 17, right?
No, July? Yeah, no.
There was a
didn't have-
meeting in between, right?
Right.
Nothing really
Nothing happened, yeah.
There's a minutes document though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, July 17th.
I'll move that. So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's have a vote. Just raise your hand if you're good with that. Right? Okay. approval. So, I don't have any agendas for me. So we just have the one case tonight, 2024-62, Stephanie Abrams. Miss Abrams, you wanna have a seat over here?
Sure. It is so official. Does it matter which seat?
No. Miss Abrams, can you tell us about your project?
Sure, we are we've already put up the fence in part. We got the permit to put the fence up to 8 feet and put the posts up to 10. And what we're asking is that we can extend the fence all the way to 10 feet. There is a slight elevation change from our property to our neighbor's property. And so the yard adjacent to ours is a bit higher. And we quite honestly have had some issues with the neighbor and have not had pleasant interactions with this person and feel that the fence is the easiest solution. We put it up at our own expense and on our property line, and we just want to have approval to put it up to 10 feet so we don't have to block as much as we can visually from seeing into the yard.
Do you have any questions?
I stopped by there this morning and was taking a look at it. It seems as if the neighbor's property it looked as if I would have estimated as being about 2 feet taller than the elevation of, your property is all pretty flat and their property is all pretty flat, but there seems as if there's like a 2 foot rise right there.
I don't know,
Correct,
probably
yeah,
about,
correct,
yeah,
It goes up
probably
to,
about 2 feet.
so if it was flat, it would be about 8 feet to block the view, but
That's
because of that elevation.
because the fence is down on the
On
lower.
our
on the lower
property,
property,
yeah.
Right, and that's why it was allowed to go to 8 feet, I suppose, is that right?
8 feet's
8 feet is
allowed.
allowed.
Alright, But, no.
But that's,
yeah,
here's the waiver requirements.
yeah.
So I guess the first one would be the topography.
Right,
And then the second is, would come down to
into the
the
setback.
minimum, the waiver, you're asking for us to grant a waiver. And so the waiver would be, why would you need, say, 10 feet versus 9 feet or whatever, right?
I mean, we would go up to 12 if we could, probably just because there's already that slight change. So basically the issue for us is from our property, from pretty much every single window we have facing that neighbor, and of course the entire driveway, we can see directly into her yard, and it's, I don't know how much discretion I should keep here, but she hasn't taken care of her yard at all since we've lived there. It's been over a year. No mowing, no trimming, no care for the yard at all. I've tried to address that with her and with the property owner, and there wasn't really an interest in improving the appearance of the property. The other big issue for us is that she has a clothesline across 2 trees, which you probably saw when you came by, which those trees of course are also higher than, they're not on the ground, they're up pretty high. And she hangs clothes out there year round, every single day. It's really an eyesore. It's, I don't know what else to say. To me, it's starting to look borderline like a hoarder situation. There's a lot of stuff. There's buckets. There's 2 inflatable pools in the yard that do have standing water in them. we would have been really open to just helping her clean it up. She didn't want to do that. She got very defensive. Basically told us we could move away if we don't like looking at her yard. So we just figured, we don't want to have a confrontation. We do not want to be in constant battle. The fence would be the easiest solution. And the less of her yard we have to see, the better for us. I wake up in the morning and I look out my window from upstairs and it's the first thing I see when I open the curtains. So.
And just to add a little bit, it's, there was a pop-up tent that was in the yard that then slowly dilapidated, and then pretty much an entire year of that dilapidated tent was just there every day, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And finally, our lawn guys took it away.
Well, we asked her if she wanted us to help take it down, and she got very defensive about that. And then go ahead, Patrick.
Well, I mean, the shared person who works on our lawns eventually had that removed, and there's another one now. So I just fear that it's going to be kind of a constant circular eyesore. It's getting worse, and so this is our solution.
So even with the 10-foot fence, you can still see the yard
We
from the
can still
second
see
floor?
over. Well, right now we have it at 8, so it's not up to 10 yet. But I mean, just since we put up the fence and started working on it, she started slowly moving stuff over to the side of the yard. One of the deflated inflatable pools is now on the side, past our fence, where our fence is stopped for now, because we didn't go all the way down yet.
You mean all the way down to the garage?
We started at the garage, and we in my original permit I put 80 feet approximately to like this sort of rhododendron at the edge of the porch.
Right.
We've only gone about 40 right now, so things are starting to move past the 40-yard line at the moment. And then the laundry is, I understand people hang out their laundry. That isn't an issue at all. But it's not hanging out laundry. It's putting stuff up on the clothesline every single day. It appears that she washes clothes outside in the rain. They sometimes hang up there for weeks, sometimes months.
And
like
sometimes it's shoe hangers or, it's
Yeah,
just
a shoe rack
it's not a
or-
normal situation. It's
Yeah,
just,
things that don't need to hang on a clothesline, and and I get that we have a difference of opinion on that, but if the fence is now going up and now the laundry is getting higher, like it seems like it's intentional to be a nuisance, and especially since we've already made pleasant gestures to help the situation and remedy and try to speak about it with the owner, with the landlord of the property. I just we felt like we didn't have another choice. Like, let's just put up the fence and move on from that, and if we can be amicable, that's great. And if we don't want to have anything to do with each other, now we have a fence.
The good fences make good neighbors. That's kind of the idea we're going for.
Looks like a pretty sturdy fence.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that
that's-
addresses one of the waiver things partially, at least, will it pose a hazard to or substantial inconvenience to adjoining property owners, motorists, or pedestrians? Once you get to a certain height, you may wonder if it will.
Right, but like I say, from an engineering standpoint,
Yeah.
it looks like they're pretty. How it's designed, I guess, is they have posts that are sunk into the ground, and then they add slats in between the posts from the top.
Yeah, we did the slats horizontally, so it's not like a standard fence like kit, so they're not going this way, they're just horizontal boards. We thought that would be the simplest, and it looks nice. It is sturdy, it's not
And
gonna
it's
fall.
finished on their side.
Oh, that's a good consideration. Because
So
sometimes
the way it's designed, it seems as if it's kind of finished on both. right?
It is. I mean, there's still a couple slats that we need to put up, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea.
So what does that mean? There's the posts and then boards on both sides?
Boards going this way, but the way they framed it with these slats is so that it looks like it's finished on both. Because that's, from our understanding, was the
Oh,
nicer
the
side.
horizontals are in between the posts?
Yes.
Oh, wow, so it's identical on both sides.
Pretty much, almost
Kind of like
identical.
drop.
Yeah.
It looked to me as if they kind of
Oh.
drop into a slot.
I think that's very considerate of
Yeah.
aesthetics and, that the neighbor doesn't have it a worse view than you guys do, so. Assuming,
mean, I-
assuming that they care.
Yeah, I feel like it would solve the problem for her too, because if she doesn't like us, now she doesn't have to look at us either, so everybody wins.
Is there a chance for me to speak, or can I
You will,
just
you
wait
get
till
a
the end
chance,
of the
no, you'll
criteria?
get a chance, just not yet,
Just, okay.
after we are
Just
all
like a lot of
finished,
free-forming discussion, so
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that
you'll get a chance.
there's a chance, cause there's a lot being said.
Tom, do you have anything else?
Yeah, do you think or know if the snow sliding off the neighbor's roof, snow and ice, will have a chance of impacting the fence?
At this point, no. I mean,
Doesn't seem-
we in terms of budgetary reasons, we can only go halfway right now, and our plan is to extend it, but I can't see that happening, sliding.
I mean, it's still, I don't know the exact number of feet, but probably 6+ feet away from the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even if a large amount of snow were to fall off of the house, I mean, it would just probably hit the fence, but I don't.
Yeah. And if anything, it would fall towards your side, I would imagine. So.
Yeah, probably.
Jordan? You have any questions?
I don't have any questions yet.
Keith?
I do not, thank you.
Any more from us?
No.
Not right now.
I mean,
Okay.
don't need to see any like documentation or, I mean, we have pictures and stuff
If that's needed.
if it's necessary.
If you'd like to read it into the record, that's fine, you can give it to Steve.
I mean, we only have digital pictures, like, so
Okay,
we
you
can't
can
hand
send it to
that.
Steve and he
Okay.
can put it in the record, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so you wanna speak, stand up, give us your name and tell us what you'd like to say.
Okay, so my name is Sarah Longsmith. I'm the property owner at 111 Pine Street.
That's the neighbor?
I'm the owner.
Okay,
I'm not residing there. I have a tenant there.
okay,
I have resided there for many years since I began owning the property in 2006. But just for the past couple of years, I've had a tenant there. I just want to say the fence as is, I'm okay with. I don't love it. I understand that it's meeting, the requirements. I appreciate the aesthetic considerations that you've just underscored. And I do acknowledge the tenant has a quirky nature about her. However, I have to walk a line between what our contractual obligations are with the lease and like being a good neighbor. So everyone has kind of a different set of standards about these things. And I have, like Patrick said, we have a shared lawn care service that we do bring in a couple times a year, and I'm in regular communication with the tenant about things that need to be taken care of that are, that might not definitely don't meet their standards, but meet the standards according to the lease. So leaf removal, snow removal, all those things I'm responsible for. The fence as is, I think is fine. It does cover, several feet, all the laundry line. It covers the backyard grass and like perennials, that are just growing. The fence is on our property line, so it's a lot closer to my house than it is their house. So they have a lawn and a full driveway, and then the fence. I just have a few feet of grass between my house and the fence. So when I go out into the yard, the fence, it's tall as is. It's looming. It's solid. It has obstructed views, western views and western sun for my plantings, my fruit trees and perennials that are there. I'm willing to let that go for the fence height as is, but to imagine it being 10 feet, which is, we're talking the rim of a basketball court, that's very high for so close to the house. And I'm not in favor of further obstruction of sun or views. It's a really nice neighborhood. It's nice looking out. I like seeing Ann Latches' house and barn a couple parcels away. Now I can't. So I understand the neighbors' concerns, but I don't think, in our town, the way things are, that we need to, be looking at our second or third floors of our houses and expecting not to be able to see anything but our fence. So I think the 6 feet is an okay compromise I can live with. I'm not crazy about it with the shade as is, but I understand that it's like within the rights of them to put it up.
It's 8 feet,
Mhm.
and that's.
8 feet, sorry, thank you for clarifying, 8 feet. And I just like, I think I've covered everything. The only one thing I would say is that, one day I will be occupying it again. And, just to get like down to where, things are right up to the fence line. It's just the fence, now that it's there, it's impeding access to it. Again, I can live with it, but I just, there's
I'm
a,
sorry, could you clarify that a little bit? I wasn't quite
well,
understanding what you meant.
kind of referenced the short hill that's there.
Yeah, okay.
So my property goes down essentially to the bottom of the hill, which is right up against the pavement driveway in the corner of their garage. So all of anything that's like kind of green and growing, basically essentially up to the edge of their asphalt driveway, I can't get to all that, and the fence is
Gotcha.
kind of there. And then there's a gap. I'm hoping that you can address your plans, if any, for, there's a pretty significant couple feet gap from the bottom of the boards that they described to the ground. Do you intend to keep that open or put lattice work there, or, because it just looks a little, it's aesthetically like a little bizarre, but I think those are the main points I want to say. So mostly it's, the sort of like, it's per your past criteria around landscape and design, and the visual impacts that I'm really concerned with here, and that I'm having an issue with, the adjoining property, and yeah, I feel like those could be minimized, the impacts could be minimized by keeping it to 8 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Your name again?
Sarah Longsmith. Sarah Longsmith.
Sarah.
Thank you.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Perhaps, forgive me if the documentation, which I may or may not have looked at carefully enough, answers the question, but what is the orientation of the fence on a north, south, east, west kind of orientation?
North and south.
Yeah, north and south.
Yeah, it runs north and south.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to comment on any of that, or is it necessary?
You can talk to us. You can't do it back and forth.
Sure. Well, the fence isn't finished, so that I just want to make clear. I would like to bring it down lower, but we have discussed how to access the foliage and make sure that it's still maintained. The property line, to our understanding, what's in our deed is it's right at the bottom of that hill is where our property starts. So there is a couple feet on the flat part at the edge of our driveway where the fence is now that is on our property. So that hill going down, I mean, I guess, yeah, the hill itself is on 111 Pines property. However, since we've owned the house, which is January of 2022, I have not seen any of that part of the property maintained. And we do share a lawn service, however, they haven't been able to do the work over there. There was one leaf cleanup, but that took a very long time. There's not plowing on the sidewalk of the snow. The snow piles up in front of the house during the winter, so you can't even walk on the sidewalk in front of the house. So just the maintenance.
And in terms of maintaining that hill, the only time we've seen minimal maintenance from the tenant is when they are in our driveway. So they, in order to service that, they come to on our property.
Right. They're
And-
also,
Right, I don't think you can complain that it's not getting, like my tenant has said, when
No, I think
she's gone to weed the hill, and yes, you have to kind of turn to the hill and weed it.
Right,
I mean, I've lived so many years prior to that and had such a great relationship with my neighbors, and every time I went down to weed the hill, the neighbor would thank me, even though I was technically on the property line. But my tenant has said she got yelled at for being there, so I just feel like you can't have it both ways. You can't yell at someone for trying to maintain it and then accuse them of not maintaining it to your liking. So I just
Okay.
I
don't
don't think
feel
we
like
need to
these
go
are
back
like
and forth
productive
on it.
no, we
arguments
don't,
at all
we
about the
don't wanna
fence
go back and
itself.
forth. And
I mean, and
I
there's
don't
a
understand
reason
what
which
this has to do
Sarah,
with the fence.
Sarah and I
just-
can talk about that, cause there was a reason why that confrontation happened, and it wasn't because the weeding was happening. But we don't need to
So
go
I do
back
have
and
a
forth.
question.
Sure.
So you wanna bring the fence, how far forward? Cause, you wanna bring it within 6 feet of the sidewalk? Is that what you wanna do?
Would it be 6 feet within the sidewalk?
I don't know if it's the exact, I think that's what we got.
Basically would be to the edge, pretty much to like the edge of the house on both houses.
Yeah, there's an apple tree
But isn't that what they have?
on the
Right.
neighboring property.
It wouldn't go all the way down to the sidewalk. It would be, I mean, maybe about 6 feet back, or, we'd like to bring it down as far down as we can, and we would actually be okay with it if it visually looks okay, to have the part that's, covering the backyard be the higher section, and then bring it down to 8 along the other side, cause really the bigger problem for us is the backyard. We are concerned though, even because we've seen this happen already, that as soon as the rest of the fence gets completed, this stuff is just gonna continue to move over and over. We even worried like, well, now that we blocked that section, like, is the clothesline gonna move over to these other trees too? Cause it's like, we're just trying to, the same concerns that Sarah has about the visual for her property, we have for ours, clearly. It's a huge eyesore. And I do worry that it's gonna lower our property value for the whole neighborhood. It is a nice neighborhood. And the only yard that's not being maintained is 111 Pine.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Is there
what-
any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about the relief being the minimum necessary.
Yes.
Would you be, you just mentioned, you would consider the idea of if you had it 10 feet to block the backyard and, I assume, right now it looks as if it was, what the fence that you have there now, it goes, about halfway up the house,
Approximately
neighbor's
half,
house?
yeah, approximately half.
But what if you just had the section just in the back there being the 10 feet and then stepped it down to 8 feet out to the road? Would
I'd be
that-
okay
Well,
with that as
I-
long as it looks okay,
Yeah, personally, I don't like the idea of a big tall fence within the setback area.
What's the setback?
The front
10
setback or
feet,
the?
yeah, the front
Front
setback.
setback.
Yeah, it's 10 feet.
Away from the street.
Yeah, the front setback applies to the front property line, it has nothing to do with
Yeah,
sidewalks.
I know.
No, I'm not
Still.
telling you, I'm just telling them.
Yeah,
So that would be the number to actually know, like where the front line is and 10 feet
But
from
it's,
that.
but fences aren't subject to setbacks.
no,
Well,
Right.
but there's,
still, I don't like the
Right,
but-
idea, but
yeah, but the regs say a fence in the front setback should be no higher than 4 feet.
that's
And we
right.
could grant a waiver for that as well, but
Yeah,
there's the precedent is that a fence in the front setback is subject to shorter
Right.
sure,
requirements
right.
than the
And this
side.
is in the front setback. If they bring it all the way forward to 6 feet.
But if the sidewalk's part of their property and the, whatever you call it, the devil strip, that's what we called it when I grew
Right,
up.
yeah.
If those two things equal 4 feet or more, then the 6
Right.
plus the 2 plus the 2 is 10, and then they're okay.
So the sidewalk is in the setback?
I don't know where their front property line is,
Yeah,
so.
Well, I mean, that always went, I mean, not that it has anything to do
I
with
mean, that can be
anything
one
here,
of the
but
conditions.
it was always, surveyors that I've dealt with in the past, it's been gone back and forth as far as the right of way, whether if the town has a right of way on your property as far as the width of the,
But it's not ownership.
for Rock
Right.
Road,
Yeah,
whether it's actually your property or whether it belongs to the
To
town.
clear it up, the shrubbery and the bushes, when I back out of the driveway on our right side, it seems like it's 6 feet or more already
Oh, it definitely is, because we have a hard time
So,
seeing the road
when
with
we're backing out.
with
So
the trees on
if
that
we
one.
wanna taper it down, to the, I mean, I think for us, we're looking for the standard of the town and the standard that would work for us and for those, and, without the kind of grayness, emotional part of it. But what can we do to solve the problem in a really black and white kind of sort of way?
Right, well, and I think that the idea of the 4 feet is primarily so that you're not blocking view as far as traffic going in and out.
well, and just the neighborhood feel.
Right.
And when you start putting up big tall fences in the front yard,
Sure.
it feels angry.
So it sounds to me like we could tentatively, still open to comments and debate and whatnot, but say any extension of this fence into the 10-foot front setback must be no higher than 4 feet.
Right.
The existing fence, which is 8 feet, remains, and somehow we define how much of it, if any, rises to 10 feet.
Right.
That sounds like the minimum that they're okay with, but except maybe the adjoining neighbor and our own perspectives. But I think that's what we have to work on right now.
So
Jordan,
the
Keith?
fence starts at your garage, yes?
Yes.
Well, just, like a foot or so before the garage.
There's
like
a tree that's right before the garage and it extends from the tree.
Okay. So,
So you're not going from behind the garage back to the back?
Mm-mm.
No, okay.
I just don't know how, if we were to grant this waiver that I kind of proposed, I don't know how we would say, like, how much of it blocks the backyard. Is it directly in line with the back wall of the house? Or is it like the diagonal from their farthest forward window to the back corner of the house and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And if you have two houses and a fence in between, that's in line with the backyard, but a window can see diagonally.
Mm-hmm.
And where is the 10-foot setback starting from? Was
Your
it?
front property line, I mean, if you don't know
So we
what
don't
it
know
is, then
exactly where the.
you could get a survey, I guess.
Yeah.
It's probably in our
It's in our
deed.
it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, they
It has a
generally have
measurement,
meets and
so we could
bounds in there,
Yeah,
but, I mean, I don't know, do you basically say to the back edge of the house?
back edge of the house or as,
I don't know which one to tentatively go with, or not, but if there's a window here, right, boom, I can see right in, even though the fence stopped
Yeah.
in line.
it's about
But I don't know if
pretty
that's,
close.
if
Yeah.
in some case
Looks
we
like
just need to go with.
it's
what's
another
simpler.
3 feet in or something, 4 feet.
Jordan, Keith, anything to add?
I have a question about so the permit was already approved for an 8-foot fence.
Yes.
And so I don't know if we can say anything about how long the fence is to the road, because they could build an 8-foot fence to 6 feet.
Good point.
To aid
I don't
what
know.
was in the permit that I submitted.
I don't know about in the setback area.
I'm for up to the edge of the house, a higher fence.
Okay. And then, in the setback, that 10 feet from where your property line is, no more than whatever it is, 4 feet.
I don't know if we can go there though, because first of all, I think that's only for intersections.
No,
No.
no,
3 feet is at the intersection.
Oh, 3 feet, okay.
Yeah,
But Jordan was saying.
But
We've
you
already-
were planning on stopping at 6 feet from the edge of the sidewalk anyways.
Yeah, but what he was saying is we've already been approved from 8 feet from where it started to where our property line, like where it is zoned to, right?
Well, I mean, you can't, if your property line goes out to, as I understand it, you've been approved for an 8-foot fence from where you're starting it to, I believe that your application was 6 feet from the edge of the
The
sidewalk.
Okay, so 6 feet from the edge of the sidewalk, so that's already,
Yeah, I guess that's already been granted, so.
so that's already been granted, so we're just asking.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that would encompass your 10 feet anyways.
right, it would.
Most likely, okay.
All right.
So it just comes down to, you know, if we can try to come up with a way to, you know, minimize the waiver, I guess is.
Yes, we
Well,
have to
yeah.
minimize the waiver. That's according to the guidelines here, so
Right.
guide there. And I like the fact that, you know, for this property, in the future, you could take parts of the fence off if you needed to, the way it's constructed.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, it can always,
I hope that
it can,
happens.
it can get shorter.
Yeah.
totally.
Does that something going up to the edge of the house with the 10-foot and then dropping down to the 8, would that be?
That's,
So it's a
there,
back,
it's the 111 house, not your
yeah.
house.
in line with the back line of
What-
111 house,
Yes.
or is there?
I mean,
You're asking me?
Well,
We're
just telling
asking
you.
everybody
Yeah,
that.
like I said, like when you go into the yard, because the fence comes, you know, right up along the edge of the hill. It's like if you walked out into that backyard, you would see how high it seems. It seems really high already.
Right.
Yeah,
And to imagine putting 2 more feet on top, I'm just like, why is that necessary? So that my neighbor who is upstairs in the house next door doesn't have to, you know, the laundry line is not moving. I installed it myself 20 years ago. It's not moving. Like, it's where it is. I don't know what all this talk about moving laundry, like, it's just, there's a lot of speculation about my tenant, and a lot of characterizations of the tenant that are, in my opinion, exaggerated. And this is not a, you know, a community that has like a homeowners association and a ban on laundry lines. I just feel like there's some over the top language that's convincing you that a 10-foot fence is necessary that will then obstruct, you know, and shade. It's a solid fence, you know,
Yeah.
solid boards. Like, I mean, even with a 2-foot lattice, like a lattice is not that see-through, especially at that level. Like, you're talking the angle of it will essentially be solid. Like, closing it in, it's more of a wall than a fence. So
Yeah.
I asked for your, you know, just keep it at the 8 feet, and that's reasonable. I'll continue working with my tenant. She's not gonna be there for forever, honestly, that much longer. So I just like, you know,
Okay.
like, I
Thank
just
you.
feel like dial it down a little bit. Let's proceed with the 8 feet. I don't really care about the step back, the front of the yard, and you know, when you're backing out of the driveways, there's a hill there anyway. That's, you know, I just don't think a fence is gonna be that much of a consideration to the front, to the back. But 10 feet is excessive.
I've actually been, Patrick and I feel like both have been really diplomatic in the way we're explaining our neighbor, and we're actually downplaying it quite a bit. So we're trying our best to like make the situation be as pleasant as possible.
And an
And
8-foot fence accomplishes that.
come on
More than
over to our
accomplishes
side of
that.
the property and see
Okay,
what it
let's
looks
start.
like,
Yeah.
because it doesn't look the same. And can I comment one other thing about just the visual of it? I mean, I understand it is a fence that's blocking light, but because the trees aren't being well maintained, they are providing so much shade. Most of them also overhang into our driveway, which we may have to even end up trimming branches, and we had to do a lot of leaf cleanup because of that. But there's not light in the yard already because the trees are so overgrown, and the grass, I guess it's grass, it's like 4 or 5 feet tall now, so it's not a usable space in the
Okay,
state that it's
good.
in.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Anything else,
Complaints
guys?
about weeds.
Do we wanna go into, deliberative session for this?
I think that might be nice.
I think it would be too.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll move that we go to deliberative session.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Deliberative session means that, we're gonna ask you guys to go and, talk around ourselves and, come to some conclusion, and we'll let you know.
And
Thank
then
you.
how soon will we find out?
Well, when we have a decision. You have 45 days after the decision is signed. I mean, you know, so, to do appeal.
Thank you.
So do we have a,
Are-
motion to, continue 2024-84?
I would like to move that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we wanted to talk about, he had something he would like to ask.
Oh, great. I've got a few thoughts after that.
Okay.
For under administrative review or whatever it is we want to call it. And I guess I would question Steve here on it a little bit. I noticed that select board meeting a little while back when they had the people from the elected officials from the state come in, they were talking about how Act 250 was getting cut back in
Scope.
in different areas in our neighborhood. And I went and talked to the person that was talking most about it, that gave the review to the select board at the they had a meet the candidates thing down at Bar 580, and she suggested that you folks would have a pretty good handle on it, but I was wondering if there was if we could find if and whether it passed, and two, what that might mean to us. And, because in the past, I've always felt, that we were kind of looking at what it might mean to the town as far as what we were trying to approve, because it was an Act 250 permit approval. But now, if Act 250 is going away for certain things, that we might want to try to be a little bit more deliberative as far as what we're approving or not, if that makes any sense at all.
I believe that if this is a bill that was passed and became law, then virtually always either Vermont League of Cities and Towns or the Planning Association for Vermont, probably both, have likely written how to understand what just happened sort of review for our help, and so we almost certainly have those that we could spread around, and I would be surprised if they didn't have like any recorded sessions of webinars or something where they would take questions from the public and explain more of the
Because the person I was speaking to gave me the name of the bill, and I went home and looked it up, and I don't know, she gave me the wrong number or whatever it was, but I was drawing a blank as far as I couldn't figure out I couldn't do a reading of what was being asked of us.
We can offer our assistance in the department and try to track down the specific bill, and if they have any blanking on what you refer that as, but I guess legal review from those
Yeah, and
organizations, we can forward that along.
it might be prudent if we had more knowledge.
And if they offer any kind of Q&A or training or something like that, I'm sure we'd be able to set that up.
That'd be great.
I have a couple thoughts, and I'd like to hear what the rest of the board thinks. Sometimes at some meetings, I think in our agenda, in the box on the bottom and in bold, it is pretty clear that where application materials are available.
Yeah.
And I would hope that people participating, look at the agenda, and it's not necessarily our staff's job to hold their hand and lead them to that. But often it seems like, applicants weren't aware of the staff memo. They didn't read it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be helpful if they did, I think, to just build a more informed public hearing. And not just a staff memo, but other documents. I don't think these folks knew they knew that there was a waiver for the fence, but I don't think they knew about those 4 criteria, right, that they could possibly have answered. We have forms, or staff has made forms for the flood waiver and the dimensional waiver, and we could request them to make a form for I don't know how often this will come up, but for the fence waiver, so that way it formalizes. Anyway, so just kind of doing something so that way applicants, I don't know if abutters would apply to this or whatever, or other interested parties, but at least the applicant actually, I don't know if that entails like a reminder email closer to the meeting, like, hey, did you see these things? I know it's more work, and
Well,
yeah.
and it was interesting. Do they get a copy of your write-up?
Like, the
applicants?
Do we physically mail them a copy?
Or email.
Yeah.
We are in regular contact with the applicants. Not daily, but we're frequently in contact with the applicants, and certainly make them aware that we put those documents on the website.
Okay, so they don't get a mailing.
I am not entirely sure if Brian does or doesn't do that regularly, but in terms of whether or not they would be aware that that's on the website, we certainly make applicants aware that we post these things on the website. I'm sure it would be entirely possible to also send them a packet, but I would not be surprised if Brian was already doing that. I am not the one doing that.
No, which is fine, and I understand.
I would imagine that he may already be doing that.
I think it's efficient to say, this information is on the website,
Right.
and it'd be good if you looked at it. That doesn't mean they will.
Right.
To
Yeah,
Tom's-
so I'm not necessarily saying like, hey, we should implore staff to do this, or you as the chair should do it. I mean, if you guys did, I think that would be great, but it is right there on the agenda. So I'm just saying that it's an area of just like, people
It
come to the
happens all
meeting, it's
the
just
time.
like, and I wanna say to myself, you didn't see these things? So.
You're a planner.
Mm-hmm. So then, if there's nothing else about that, but people could comment if they want. Also, in our rules of procedure, there's, and I'm not necessarily a stickler for following protocol all the time necessarily, but we do have a section called Section 7, Public Hearings and Order of Business, and this was one instance earlier, the neighbor said like, hey, am I gonna have a chance to comment? And once again, they can see this rules of procedure on our webpage. But should we expect people to do all that homework and look at our rules of procedure and come prepared and know how things operate? And that's assuming we do actually follow the rules of procedure.
That you're right.
literally.
It's something that I had thought of that I wanted to do, and just give them an idea of when it would be their turn to speak.
Yeah.
Before we started, James used to do that.
Yeah.
He
In
was
fact,
very good
this
at
could
it.
be printed out
But
and available
I
even at the meeting.
kind of meant to say it
Yeah.
before, and I didn't, but it reminded me that I would like to include that in our little opening spiel, kind of an instruction on, this is how it's gonna work, you know.
Yeah.
You get to have your say, then we'll ask questions, the board will ask questions, and then when we're finished, anyone else in the audience who wants to say something can.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's like a 18-step process. So I don't know if you want to say all that, or if you want to simplify it, or you know, have it printed out there and say. But whatever, I just want to bring it up that
I think it's a good idea, because
But then we
people
actually
sit
have to
there and they
follow
get
it.
all worked
Well,
up, and
because
then I wanna say
she was
something.
confused.
Yeah,
That's why, when do I get to talk?
right.
Yeah.
And it might be prudent to,
Yeah, and I
To
wanted to
say
do
that
it,
near the
like
beginning
James
somewhere.
used to do that,
Right.
and I always liked it,
Yeah.
that he.
I mean, the whole
he
time
let
I've been
people-
here, no one has. I mean,
Yeah,
in good faith, I think every chair and everyone has tried to be fair and follow the protocol. And I haven't studied it and been like, oh, you messed that up. But like, probably this exact 18-step procedure has never been literally followed, but no one has ever said like, hey, I read all this and you guys aren't doing it right.
yeah,
And they're being diplomatic if they did read it. And
right,
why?
nobody.
But
wants
also,
Nah,
but I think it's because no one read it.
it. Yeah, right.
Right.
But
So-
James was
Just
before
things to
your time,
consider.
and he did do it.
Yeah.
We didn't read that, but he gave them, the whole room kind of the idea of how it's gonna
this is how it's
proceed.
gonna work.
This is how. we
I mean, the
want-
select
yeah.
board doesn't do that either, and I think it
I
would
think
be helpful if they
I think
did.
you're right. And I meant
So-
to, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even in the planning commission, we have a little kind of simplified protocol in our bylaws, and I try to follow it. So yeah, just expressing
You're right,
those
it's
two
a good idea.
sentiments. Okay.
Steve, did you get
I
down
hate neighbor
who-
disputes.
who got approved the last thing?
The minutes?
No, the what we just approved,
The continuance?
Yeah.
the continuance and,
Yeah, I had that you moved and Tom seconded.
okay, so I was looking at my paper and I didn't write anything of that. I'm a lousy note taker.
Didn't appoint Tom instead.
We have a clerk. Or the clerk's designee.
Yeah, I guess I'm the vice
Steve.
clerk.
Vice clerk.
Is there anything else, guys?
I think not.
Jordan, Keith, anything else?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. Wanna move to adjourn?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, thank you.
Good night, guys.